Hey everyone, it's Mackenzie Wilson here. Thanks for joining. We're just a minute or two away. We're both, we are live now. Chris will be joining us shortly, and I've got a very experienced wealth of knowledge bookkeeper waiting to give you guys a great rundown of bookkeeping for landlords tonight. And we'll talk about should you have a bookkeeper? Do you need a bookkeeper? What to look for in a bookkeeper, and we'll talk about the benefits of a bookkeeper. This is a first in our expert series, shows focus specifically on a skill or a trade or a service that is needed in the world of being a landlord. And pretty excited to have this conversation with you guys. I know really how well bookkeeping to any business is absolutely important, but even more so I find with real estate, most of us tend to try doing it ourselves, and hopefully kind of clarify if that's still the right move for you, or maybe you should be outsourcing it and you can spend your time doing more productive things for your business. So while we hang out here, I'm going to get Diana hop online right now, and we'll bring her in and get her introduced to you guys. Hi Diana, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
You're good? Oh, I can't hear you. Oh, there you go. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. It's a little bit delayed. Good, good. So for the folks that don't know you, Diana, maybe give us a little bit of a background. I'll just steal your thunder and say you've got over 20 years experience in the industry as a bookkeeper. You've done through multiple industries, and you also have a background in tax, which is not very common for bookkeepers. So you're very well versed in the subject, and quite looking forward to the conversation with you tonight.
Well, thank you.
From your side, maybe if I've skipped some stuff and the people don't know, yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, so tell me from your side a bit more of an introduction for the people that don't know you and your background.
Okay. As Mackenzie has said, I've done this for probably over 20 years. I have a degree in business. I have done tax prep for probably close to 20 years also, specializing in T1s like small business and proprietors. And I've done from desktop to QuickBooks Online to different types of software for different clients. I have a wide variety of clients that I do provide service for, and you know, a few of them are landlords and real estate investors. And I specialize in actually being able to give financial statements, being able to analyze your business for you and help you determine whether or not you have good cash flow, whether or not you're profitable, and closer to year ends, helping you prepare for your taxes, for your accountant, if that's who you're using, and getting a better picture of where you're sitting at month to month. One of the biggest things I hear from clients is they have no idea, right, until to the year end, and then they give their, you know, their shoebox or whatever it is to their accountant, and then they have a big surprise at the end of the year owing taxes or realizing that they didn't make any money at all.
Yeah, and I can say before I met you, Diana, I had an idea of where I thought I would be, but to say exactly or to say with some accuracy, I honestly didn't have that information. And actually, I can kind of elaborate on how I met you, Diana. Is I had a previous bookkeeper that had got me set up online, had built the system through, at that time I was using Xero, which is an online accounting software. She built the system, the chart of accounts and all the stuff required, but then she kind of went MIA and I was a little bit stranded. And then fortunately I was able to cross paths with you, Diana, and well, it's been a couple of years since then, and you've gotten me definitely on the straight and narrow, and I can't explain enough how happy I am to have your guidance and services, because again, it's a lot of information, and if it isn't done right, you know, when it comes to tax time, if you ever get audited, it could cost you quite a bit of money too. So your weight's definitely worth it in gold. Chris, we got you on the show. How are you doing, good sir?
Oh, very good, very good. Hi, Diana.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
Very good, very good. Sorry I was a little bit late, but I am doing a juggling act tonight, so.
Yeah, no problem. All right. I mean, it's good. And so, and just to kind of give some more background, Chris, you just got a new bookkeeper just recently, haven't you?
Yes, I did. Just, yeah, thanks to you, Mackenzie. Now Diana and I are connected, and she had a really good look at my stuff and said, not bad, I think I can help here.
Good, good. What was your your feeling from before and after that you've kind of gotten some stuff and some systems together from Diana, just from your perspective, because I know when we discussed this previously, you don't have a lot of experience with bookkeeping. You're doing it yourself, so just walk me through kind of that process and what it felt like.
Well, just a short package it up here is where I had a partner, and I looked after everything, and I had files that I threw receipts in, and then I had spreadsheets that I tried to document everything on. And you know what? In the end, my spreadsheets grew. They became a little more technical. I was quite proud of myself, you know, that I was doing those wonderful things. And look at Diana's smiling because she's seen these spreadsheets. Are you laughing at me, or are you laughing with me, Diana?
No, they're lovely. Yeah.
And so, you know, at the end of the year, I was looking at it and I'm going, yeah, I'm not doing too bad, not bad. And now, after meeting you, Mackenzie, through the Alberta Landlords, and you know, we've made a great connection and we've done some great things with this page. And you said, you got to talk to Diana. So I went down and I talked to her and showed her the stuff, and she says, yeah, I can definitely help you. And certainly she has, because now I can click, I can go on with my phone, I can upload receipt, I can go. This is exciting. And not being as techie as you are, but I can take my purchase at Home Depot or wherever I'm purchasing something, take a picture of the receipt, and it's automatically uploaded into the system. It's there. If it blows out my window on the way home, it's there. And Diana, at the end of the month, tells me this will be our first go by the end of the month here. Yeah. And everything is just going to be so neatly packaged. And, you know, come March, April next year, when I have to go see my accountant, it's just going to print some forms off, and I don't have to stress anymore. It's all there. And I will tell you, I think, you know, once we get everything figured out, it'll be time well spent getting this in order, and to know exactly where I'm at, which place is making how much money. Diana's explained to me, she says, I'll be telling you to the penny which place you're not charging enough, or maybe you're losing money, or how you can increase your revenues. She'll have it all figured out for me. And that's exciting to me now that I will really know where I'm at. So
yeah. I like not having to carry paperwork around. It kind of gives me a rash. I don't do well with it. I'm more of on the tech side of the business. So the ability to take a picture, have it uploaded automatically, all you do is write around the receipt in the parking lot. You know exactly what it's for because it's fresh in your memory. You write it on, it gets fired off in the cloud. Comes into her books. She'll reconcile it for you. Get your books done right. It's awesome. On top of that, maybe in a future conversation we can have a talk on the show, is I've actually built rules and I've automated a lot of the monthly costs that come in. So for example, when a tenant does their e-transfer to pay rent on the 1st, that email confirmation from Interact, usually I'm also working on training my tenants. Some are much better than others, but they usually put in the description, you know, this e-transfer is for, you know, August 1st rent plus utilities and whatever else it gets broken down by. When they put that information, they fire off that email actually automatically gets forwarded into the accounting software. So Diana has a full picture of what's going on. So if she sees the same rent coming every month, that's great. But if it's varying because maybe I've added a pet fee, or I'm charging a little bit less for whatever reason, or there's a multitude of reasons why it could change. Maybe they bring in a new renter, so now 2 of them are each paying 50% of the rent evenly, or 50-50. Diana gets that information up front without my interaction in that process. I'm saving my own time. She's got all the information she needs at her fingertips. So when she goes to do my month end, she sits down in one go and gets it done quickly and efficiently. And therefore, she's spending less time. She's charging me less, and it's a win-win for everyone because she can get more books done for other clients. So kind of a neat little thing, but let's kind of get into the thick of it here. So Diana, I'm going to throw the first question at you. What are the benefits of an experienced bookkeeper? And then we'll follow up with that is, does everyone need a bookkeeper right off the bat with real estate and the rentals?
Okay, so the benefits, I think, of an experienced bookkeeper, and that's the key word, is experience, right? Because there's a big difference between data entering and an actual experienced bookkeeper. Okay, so data entry, you can have anyone go in and data enter all your books. But, you know, you have to be able to analyze your numbers, and you have to be able to tax plan, and you have to be able to decide if you have a house that's suited and everything must be separated to each class, so to speak, so that I can say to you, by doing all of this, excuse me, that, given, if you say, given the market, everyone's getting this, why am I not? Well, because your bottom suite's bringing in this amount of money. Your top suite is bringing in this amount of money. And when you have it done properly and every expense allocated, utilities are split if you only have 1 meter, then you can say, oh, wait a minute, am I charging enough? Maybe I'm not charging enough utilities, right? Why do I always seem like I'm in the hole, right? And maybe I'm not charging enough rent. If you have these broken out properly and analyze and be able to sit down with your bookkeeper and analyze them, you can do better budgeting, you can be better tax planning, and you have a better picture of whether it's 1 house or 10, where you're actually sitting, right?
Yeah.
So is it different if your bookkeeper's experienced and knows some of the market, right? And knows, has done this type of industry or any industry, depending what you're in, for a long time, they would know a lot more about just data entering as opposed to being able to produce your cash flow. Where's your cash flow sitting at? And these types of things that can give you a better picture of your business, an accurate, like real lifetime picture of what you're doing.
Yeah, and on top of that too, and I know you've saved me and you've corrected me on a few of these things. I'll submit things in as expenses, and I'll write off these things, and you go, no, that doesn't fly. So you're protecting me because I'm saying things where I'm trying to write off things that actually don't qualify in the eyes of the CRA, which is what you're quite familiar with. So if I ever get audited down the road, all my ducks are in order. On top of that, if you've done the books right up front, and when you give them over to my accountant actually spends less time doing my taxes, my tax returns. So therefore, my accounting bill actually goes down because my accountant's not going through and sifting everything there. Because if they start seeing mistakes in the books, then my year-end accounting bill is going to be huge. Where if someone's doing their own books, and it could be, maybe not writing things off properly, because your accountant's going to go through. Because at the end of the day, they're, what's the right word? But they're responsible, they're liable for what they submit on your behalf to the CRA. So they're going to go through the fine-tooth comb, but if they see it's all done right up front, that's less hours being charged back to you at a rate of an accountant versus a bookkeeper, which typically are priced a bit differently.
Yeah, and they are. And you raised a good key point about expenses, right? I think a lot of landlords, new and ones that have been around a bit, don't realize what expenses they can and can't write off, and also what's a capital expenditure and what's an actual expense. And so these are really, really important because Revenue Canada will look at that, deem whether or not, does that increase the value of your property, or is that really an expense? And those things are really important to note and know. And again, going back to just the difference of someone just data entering, if they don't have that experience or don't know about those things, they're going to be advising you incorrectly.
Yes, absolutely. And and I like that you brought that up. We had a conversation on the page not too long ago about, can you write off tools, for example, against a property if they're buying to do a renovation? So, here's my take on it. I'm just kind of going off the top of my head. Let's say the renovations cost, I don't know, $800. Maybe it's new flooring or something like that, and you buy maybe $150 worth of tools. That probably seems reasonable, and you could probably write that off as part of that renovation. But if someone's going and say they're buying $2,000 or $1,500 worth of Milwaukee power tools, and their renovation job is $80 worth of material, that might not fly so much, or I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, because it's what's going on because if you hired a contractor to do it, they can't write off their tools against your bill, right? That's a part of their own business. So you have to be careful when you're looking at things like that. Revenue Canada does look at some of the rules on $500 and under for certain items, right? Because you could be using that power tool or saw for something completely different after and personal.
Yeah.
Right. And those are things that they will look at if you're trying to push them through as an expense.
Perfect. Okay, good to know.
Just to be mindful of, which expenses you can or can't write off. That's really important when you're doing your rental properties or any type of business, right? Knowing what is your income, there's different types of incomes. That's why they need to be broken out. There's different types of expenses, as I just alluded to. Are they depreciable, or can I just expense them? And then, if I have items that are depreciable, do I take that whole thing in the whole year? Well, those are items that you really need to be educated on, right, in order to decide. And those are really big decisions for landlords or any business owner to decide. Do I make that big purchase, in December? Do I wait till January? And if you don't have your books or your finances in order, you could make the wrong decision.
Well, yeah, it's like on that point. So let's say there's a big purchase you need to make, and if your books, and this is in December, and your books are only done up to June, and you've missing half a year, you don't know if you have enough space to do a write-off to save on a tax hit this year. You don't know your current position, or like you said, maybe it's more advantageous to spend it next year and take that allocation or that write-off to the following year because it benefits you better in the long run. But if you don't know where you're at, how can you make an informed decision?
Well, and because not most, but a lot of the businesses are small business, right? The proprietor on your T1 tax return after December 31st, those purchases you cannot put in that previous year, right? So you don't have that option anymore. There isn't a lot of option that you do have once that year ends over to do anything to that property in increasing any expenses.
So, so again, this highlights why having someone who's experienced in bookkeeping as opposed to data entry, they're going to recognize these minute details, which are going to be big to your tax write-off time or to your doing your tax returns is where you're going to do a lot of the savings or recoup or get some of those savings, which is great. So I'm just kind of going through our notes here. And I kind of, go ahead. Yeah, time, Chris.
Yeah, if I jump in, I just want to jump back to the tool question because I'm one of those do-it-yourselfer landlords, and tearing out a bathroom and putting a new one in is something I'm not afraid to do, right? And putting down flooring. So like you said, spending $200 on a full set of Milwaukee tools, the guidance says, yeah, probably not. However, the question that will come out of that is, well, what if I have to buy some paintbrushes or some sandpaper or a special tool to do a special job, like putting in some hardwood flooring or something. What's your thoughts on that? The smaller things.
Well, the smaller things are fine. They can, but I mean, if you're replacing your entire flooring in the home, then that's a capital expenditure. If you're replacing a couple boards, then that's an expense. And if you need, some tools to do that, then that's an expense. But there you're starting to get into, is it an expense or a capital expenditure?
So I'd like to ask that question because I did have a chat with another landlord who has a few more doors than I will ever have. And his position on, say, replacing the flooring in a kitchen, putting new vinyl down, his position was he didn't feel that was a capital expenditure. That was an expense because renters wreck stuff and it doesn't last. And he's having to change it out, say every 5 years, where a normal place would be 10 to 15 years. Do you see that more as can be an expense?
Yes, and depending on the cost too. So when Revenue Canada looks at it, they look at the length that it's in for the property, right? And if he's having tenants that he's having to rip it out every few years, right, there's a little bit of a difference as opposed to putting in, normal wear and tear and improving the length of the value of it. Those are the keywords that Revenue Canada looks for.
And maybe the size of the property too, right?
It's a little bit unique. Yeah. I'm sorry, Mackenzie?
And maybe the size of the property. Are you talking like one room, Chris, in a like 200 square feet of 1,000 square foot house? Or are you talking majority of the house? Because that probably
I'll use one of my places as an example. I went in there, and of course the flooring got wrecked. So I bought the flooring that I needed to fix it, and because I see a little. My vision might not be good, and Diana will clarify it for me, but I see the work I'm putting in as a sweat equity, where the actual to buy the flooring and the glue, that could be more of an expense. I'm not hiring a guy and adding on his labor and taking a $400 worth of material and adding another $450 of labor. Now it's a $950 bill. I can keep it down to $450 because I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So
Revenue Canada doesn't look at it that way. If you choose to do it yourself, that's your choice, right? And you can expense the tile. Or if you hire a contractor, right, then you can expense that depending on the cost and what it's doing in the building.
So the balance is what the amount is then. So whether it's going to be a capital improvement or an expense.
No, it's not always the amount. It is there are key things that they look for. Does it improve the value over a long term to the building, right? The structure. For example, if you had wooden stairs, going down and you had to fix some boards on it, you had to replace a whole bunch of boards on it, that's an expense. If you replace the stairs with a cement set of stairs, then that's a capital expenditure. So there's a huge list, and different situations go into each one, right? Then just, you know, every situation is different, right? So for your situation, to the other gentleman you were talking to, your situations can be viewed differently.
Right. So change.
Another reason why to have a good bookkeeper.
Yeah.
Because like
there's everyone would take a long time.
So
there's. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
So to do a full-blown window change in a place, that would be a capital expenditure.
Okay, windows are different. If you replace the glass in the window, that's an expense. If you replace the entire window, as you know, windows can be expensive, that's a capital expenditure, right? So if someone throws a rock through your window and you can just replace the pane, you know, the glass pane, then that's an expense because you're not replacing the entire window, which windows are expensive and they're considered capital expenditures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Diana, I know we discussed these, you and I'm just repeating because if I'm asking the question, I know darn well there's other people wondering the same thing. So I apologize for you having to repeat. So
no, and that's fine because it is a big question that comes up a lot, right? And people do need to know that, because if they put it in as an expense when it's really a capital expenditure and Revenue Canada audits you, you're going to have to reverse it, right? Yeah. And prove that, you know, ultimately you are responsible to prove everything that you've, you know, expensed or set up as an asset or expenditure. Yeah.
I'll just say we had a question pop up here. It's that one that starts off. You'll see it as "I found taking pictures." You see that one, Mackenzie? That's the last. That's from Shelley Visser. And
Shelley. Hey, Shelley.
Shelley.
So there she goes. That's what she says. She said, found taking pictures of what I was having to repair helps if I get audited to prove that it was a repair and not improvement. I just keep it in the files. You know what? It all comes back to everything we've talked about, whether it's kicking a renter out, conversations you have, or doing this. Document. And at the end of the day, you put it on the paper in front of somebody and they go, yeah, okay, we understand it. So.
And that does help with Revenue Canada. If they come in to do an audit, if you have the receipt and you have a picture, then they may have a different view of how they want it expensed. It's a great way to do it, Shelley. Great way.
Yeah. Perfect. Awesome. And so I'm just kind of going through too. And another thing that we kind of talked about when we were prepping for the show, Dinah, was, you know, what is your individual time worth? My ability to do my taxes will probably take about 3 times the time it would take you to do it. So you'll do it more efficiently. And if I'm going to, you know, and really, what's my time worth? Because if I'm going to sit down and work, okay, there's a difference of working in and working on your business. If you're going to work in your business and do the day-to-day tasks and do all the different tasks, but some tasks may take you 3 to 5 times as long as it takes an experienced person and that specific skill set to do that task. You know, is it really worth your time to do it? Because you're, as a bookkeeper or as a data entry, which maybe more or less of what you're doing if you don't have any experience as a bookkeeper, they get paid $15 to $20 an hour. But then you're doing a job that should take an hour, 3 hours. And,
I'd love to answer that question, Mackenzie.
Get in there. Do you want to be a part of this? Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I am totally sold on what you just said, because Diana took my books from January to yesterday and everything is in order. It's done. And all I have to do is I don't have to worry about anything. And to come home after I've had to replace a floor or paint a place or whatever, and then come home and have to fool around with expenses, you nailed it in that whole thing. Is that what is my time worth? It's worth my sanity and my peace of mind to have that. And I can't speak highly enough that. And thank you, Mackenzie, for getting me over there, because it's just made me feel so much better about what's going on. So yeah, it's worth a lot.
Yeah, your shop's in order and you can log online, or you can print and send you reports, and you'd be like, oh, there's my bottom line. I know as of August 1st, June or July 1st, for example, in the month that we're in right now, here's where I'm at on my properties. It's great, and it just allows you to focus on better things, right? We're all trying to build a business. I mean, we're all here to be landlords, not because the title sounds sexy, but it's because it's a means to an end, because we've got family, friends, hobby, passion projects. This is going to supply the money that we can actually do the things that are important with us in those end goals. So to sit down and do every nuance in the job of being a landlord, including bookkeeping, doesn't make a sense for a lot of people, myself included. So it's a world of a lot. I don't stress about it because I've had Diana now for a few years, and it was stressful in the beginning. Like I said, I had another bookkeeper. She came in, she charged me $250 up front, and just to get started. And she did maybe 3 months, and then I sent in more emails, and then she just kind of trailed off. And I was like, well, I had no idea where my properties were. I had like an idea of what I was spending and getting in rent, but I didn't know. And there's one point to have an idea of where you're at, but then there's a whole nother level of confidence and yeah, just general confidence when you know exactly where you're at, because you may think you're at something, and all of a sudden when you get your books done, or Diana or another bookkeeper comes in, you get sorted out, and you realize, holy bleep, I look over and I realize what I thought were my expenses were actually 20% higher, and I've been losing month or bleeding it or been breaking even when I thought I was banking, you know, 200 or 400 or 500 bucks a month, or wherever your property's cash flow at. So it's, yeah, I can't say enough. So like you said, to highlight to another big benefit of having a great bookkeeper is you're up to date when you need to make decisions in the future that's going to affect your tax position. So
I can say something, not just affect your tax position, but affect how you're moving forward, and decide, should I do that purchase? Should I do that reno? Right? Should I get a new fridge? I know it's almost on the fritz. Should I do that? Right?
Yeah.
And if you're not sure where your finances are, or if your suites are making money, you're not going to make a very good business decision. Right? So to find a good bookkeeper that you can work with, that will help you to make those decisions, or at least have, you know, your financials to show you that yes, you have the cash flow, no, you don't, right, is, I think, very important to do that.
I love it. And so we got a fun comment. I can't, again, Chris, if you're doing the Facebook monitoring side, someone mentioned here, I'm a bookkeeper and my background has helped me immensely with managing my property books. It's definitely worth having a bookkeeper for your investment. Like, absolutely. I mean, we're, at the end of the day, it's money in and it's money out. You need to know where you're at, and if you're not measuring those dollars and cents appropriately, you don't know if you're bleeding or making money, and that's really the name of the game here. So we've gone down that question enough. Is there any other points that you want to talk about the benefit, Diana, of having a good bookkeeper, or do you want to hop to our next question?
We can hop to another one unless someone had a question. Yeah, by all means.
Okay.
You can go to the
Very
next
cool.
one.
Very cool. Okay, so I made these banners too. I gotta make sure I click and use them. So do you need to have a bookkeeper? Diana, does everyone need to have a bookkeeper out there? And how do you define if someone should have a bookkeeper, or if they're capable of doing it on their own?
Yes, everyone needs one. No, I think it depends on your situation, right? And it goes down to time management, and do you know what you're doing? Right? I think it really goes down to that too. For example, if I may use you, Chris, he had great spreadsheets. He had everything in order. But when we actually sat down and talked about it, and I said, do you know what you're doing? In the sense of, do you know where all your finances are? And he sort of had a picture, yeah, but you know, wasn't too sure. And you know, and once everything was up and going, now I think he knows that, you know what, whether it's me or anyone else, right, is finding a good bookkeeper that can give you now the insight to say, okay, Chris is like, you know what, I am going to make that next purchase because I have a cash flow statement here and I know where I'm sitting at, right? So I think some people, for example, if you have your accounting software, they figure I can do my own books with the accounting software, and they may be able to. But if you're going along and let's say for 6 months you're doing your books, 7 months, 8 months, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh, I made a mistake. This isn't matching up. Do you know how to find it? Do you know where that mistake was, right? Or why that cost for that house is way higher than a different cost? And that doesn't make any sense. You know in your mind that those expenses weren't part of that house, right? So, you know, I can't say don't get a bookkeeper. I can't say get one in that sense. I believe that if you have properties or investments and things like that, you should have a bookkeeper because it will benefit your financial decisions. It'll benefit your stress level come tax time or even throughout the year, and you'll have a clearer picture and be able to spend more time focusing on your business and developing and growing your business than trying to figure out number crunching at, you know, and getting frustrated with not too sure where you're putting things or not being able to look at the big picture yourself and figure it out. There are a lot of people that don't understand financial statements also.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
having a good bookkeeper can sit down and explain, as I did with Chris, right? Saying, this is what a cash flow is. This is what a profit and loss is. This is how they relate to your business. And with using these, this is how we can produce your T776s, which are your rental forms on your tax return, right? These are what we're going to take from them. And this is what you're going to do for your taxes. Then we're going to look at, do you want to depreciate or not? These are all the things that can be done prior to your year end, so that you can start to tax plan and, perhaps do up a dummy return so that you know where you're sitting at if you have other incomes that are coming in. So I would say most people, if they're doing a business, get a bookkeeper, or at least get some consulting from a bookkeeper. If you're determined to do it on your own, fantastic. But to get some consulting and some help and reviews if you need, so that you're ensured that you're on the right track.
That's a great point, actually, and I'm glad you brought that up. Is you actually don't need a bookkeeper full time, and I know you do it, Diana. You might have some small business owners or small landlords. If someone's diligent and they like that gritty detail, and they only have maybe 1 or 2 properties, they just maybe need a little guidance. Maybe I check in every 6 months or every 3 months with a bookkeeper to ensure that they haven't created a larger mess because they're doing their books and they're on the right track. That makes sense. Maybe that makes sense for them to do their own books. But in layman's terms, if sitting down in front of a computer and pulling out the shoebox or the banker's box full of receipts, or if you've got it online, gives you chills and you don't do it and you go and watch the Netflix instead, you probably need a bookkeeper, because it's not your forte. It's something you don't want to be doing. But you've got no problem getting down and gritty and going through it, and you need maybe just a few pointers, get a bookkeeper to consult. Why not? So it depends on the person.
It really does. Everyone's situation is unique, right? Yeah. Everybody has different 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, houses. They could also have other businesses, right? That they want to track also, and you can do that all in one set of books, right?
And that goes back to in this business, if people are looking to grow and they're a new landlord, or they're a landlord that's been going out for some time and they're starting to expand and using other people's money or joint ventures, that's another whole ball game of how you need to keep those books accurate and to provide your money partners with timely reports on where the properties are at. You don't want to be doing it every quarter, stressing out at the end. They're trying to get it done, or you can have it already done and ready to go and have it sent off within the first week of the next quarter, because your bookkeeper's handling that part of the business for you.
And that's important, right? If you have partners, and you're handling the property, you're looking after the property, they're expecting those quarterly statements from you. They're expecting the cash flow statements, they're expecting the profit and loss statements, and they want to know exactly where their money is and what their investment is giving them back, right? So you need to have those statements done up and be able to send to your JV partner or partners.
Awesome.
Diana, I just want to say that we did talk earlier, but so everybody knows, please do feel free to use me as a visual aid in what you've experienced with me with my books, because you know what? Vulnerability is where people grow. And if my using me helps other people with this, you know what? There's people less advanced as me, and there's people far more advanced than me. So you know what? Anything we talked about, that you feel that you could use as an example, please feel free, because I know there's other people that are going to benefit from it. So, and I even know, Mackenzie, you're going to laugh at this. I called Diana, and I said, "Can I buy this?" She kind of laughed at me, and she says, "Well, do you want to?" Nice. So anyway, but you know what? It's exciting now, because yes, I did have money. Yes, I was spending, but now I can plan better because I can see those numbers. And the funny part was, hey, she says, you're doing well. Did you look at this sheet, or did you look at that sheet? And I go, no. So she says, you need to look at it. Like she says, you need to do that. But she's so passionate about it. So I was excited. The people that are on here, like Shelley and Sandy and Gord and Bill, that have been on the show with us, they're far more advanced than the majority of us. And those people, they use bookkeepers. So you have one question, Mackenzie, from Joanne, the latest one.
Let's get her in there. Okay.
Yeah.
Which one is it? At the very bottom here, it says.
The very bottom, yeah.
Okay. I'll pop it up. At how many properties should you have a bookkeeper? Ooh.
Well, that's a good question. Depends on how comfortable you are. If you're doing your own books and you're finding you're overwhelmed, and you're not being able to keep up, you're not being able to see exactly where you're sitting at, then definitely you need a bookkeeper, right, to help you out. I find the majority of people that I deal with have two or more. Some have one property because they're just starting out and they want to start out correctly. Yeah. So we go with setting everything up with them. We help them understand how to read financials and guide them along to what they're looking at when they're looking at them, what expenses are expected, you know, the fixed costs, things like that we go over with them. I would say it comes down to your comfort also. If you find you're overwhelmed with 2, 3, 4 properties and you just can't keep up and you want to spend more time on other things, then get a bookkeeper, right? Again, you can have someone come in and have a look and give you an idea of where you're sitting at, you know, to help you out. But I do find from my experience, most of my clients that do rental properties have, and they do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but a lot of them like to start in the very beginning to have one so they're on the right track. And then again, if you have 2 or more and just don't have the time but want to make sure that you are, and if you're growing, right? If you have a few properties and say, I want to do another one, do you actually have time to get that house going and looking after your books and all that too? So it is a personal preference. I advise my clients when they have more than one to look at, or I do advise other people perhaps look at finding a good bookkeeper that can help them out.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it goes back to if you're not sure, do a consult, see what you've been doing, if you're right or wrong, and you'll find out quickly how much work it is to fix that, or maybe is it better just to have it outsourced and done right for you. So let's say you've made a decision and then you want to hire a bookkeeper. How do we go about finding a qualified bookkeeper, Diana?
Okay, I think the first thing that I would say is referrals. I think referrals are you know, where a lot of people find their bookkeeper, right? And you want to look at quite a few different bookkeepers to see. You want to see what are their qualifications, right? What is their, you know, how long have they been doing it? What's their experience? Are they only in one field, right? Do they only know one type of bookkeeping, right? Because there's so many different industries out there, right? Yeah. And you want to find one that specializes in your industry, right? And has referrals that can, you know, agree with that and have, you know, people saying, yes, this is why I like to use him or her, right? And what is your bookkeeper certified? Do they know their software, right? That's very important. Can they produce the statements that you need out of them? Do they have certifications, right? Do they have any, now a lot of bookkeepers don't do tax, but do they have any tax qualifications? Do they have any experience in it? Because that does help come close to your end, preparing and getting ready to hand it off to your accountant, right? It lessens how much your accountant has to do, and it can lessen your tax bill.
And just thinking on that,
right expenses done.
Yeah, and just thinking on that too. I think a simple question, because most of this audience, we're all landlords, so we all have rental properties, which requires a T776 or 766.
Yeah, T776 is your rental property form.
So ask them that question. Ask them what's the T776. If they can't explain it off the top of their head, tells me they don't look at a lot of rental properties as a bookkeeper.
No, because that's what your rental property goes on to, right? Each individual one, right? And that's really important to know. I think to know that, because you need to know the expenses that you are allowed to expense for rental properties. They're very different than other properties, you know, or not, excuse me, not other properties, other businesses, right? They are very different.
Yeah, totally. So if you mention this form, the T766 or 776, I'm butchering the number right now, but if you mention that specific form for the tax return on properties and your bookkeeper looks at you cross-eyed or a blank stare, maybe they're not experienced in real estate. That might not be the best fit. That's kind of one way to do it. I like what you said too, Diana, and this kind of leads into the continual learning process. Does your bookkeeper have certifications, and are they up to date? If they're up to date and they're on top of it, then that's a sign they like the learning and they have a goal or a drive to continually improve.
Yeah.
You mentioned that well.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
Oh no, just keep going. If you want to add to that, I was just going to, because you mentioned, I'm just going through our notes, members of associations. So what was that one bookkeeping association you were telling me about? What's that one called?
There's a Canadian Professional Bookkeeping Association. It's one of the biggest ones in Canada, right? So are they a member of any association, right? Or do they get their certification levels? Do they keep up their certification, right? Points and credits like an accountant does, right? Are they on any panels, right? Like, do they go on to, are they invited to speak, or, you know, are they asked to give opinions on panels, like for QuickBooks or Sage or things like that? You know, do they give their feedback to the accounting softwares to help improve it for their clients? Those types of things, you know, because it's a very personal choice when you have a bookkeeper. You know, you want to know that they're available for you because you're giving them a lot of your personal information, right? And you have to have a really good open communication with them and be comfortable with them. You know, you may not like one bookkeeper, right? He just doesn't, you don't get along, or there's something about him that doesn't work. So
Yeah.
it is you need to do your due diligence when you're hiring a bookkeeper, very much. And like I said, I can't stress enough, this is your personal information. So you have to make sure you're comfortable handing that over to somebody to look after for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the one thing with bookkeeping, they don't necessarily have to be local. So if you're looking around, if you know of someone, you've got a cousin out in Quebec that are using someone that they really like, that's a possibility as well. That comes back to, do they have the ability to use tech tools and be online? Diana, you found your way online tonight, and we've done lots of Zoom calls in the past.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that goes back to the cloud software and just there's a lot of advantages, and maybe for some folks, just to make sure we're very clear on this, there's QuickBooks as a software that sits on your PC that's not tied to any online services, and then there's QuickBooks only online or a cloud-based software that allows you to do all these different integrations with the automations and going forward. There's definitely those differences as well, so you want to make sure whoever you're looking at is using that right tool for you to get your business done.
Yeah, that's important. Another key thing that I don't think some people know is that if you hire a bookkeeper, let's say from BC, and you're in Alberta, they have to be licensed in Alberta, right?
Ah.
Alberta, BC, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba have a special agreement in licensing for services and products, and they must be licensed in those provinces to do it. So if you have, you know, a friend that you know that wants to do your books that lives in BC, they have to have a license to be able to do that in Alberta. So those are key things to know. And it's fine if you have all your books remote and online, which most of my clients do, you can access it anywhere, right? And they can do your books from anywhere. You can do your receipts from anywhere, right? It gives you a lot more freedom in tracking your things and making sure, you know, like as Chris said, I got my Home Depot bill. Yeah, if he's in BC and buys something that he forgot and needs a property for, he can take the picture and it goes right into his books. So the online aspect is huge for bookkeepers and for clients. And you can outsource a bookkeeper from anywhere nowadays if you're using an online software. Yeah.
So going on that, if you're going to be remote from your bookkeeper or typically not see them in person, even though Diana, both you and me are in Calgary, I think I can probably count on one hand. We actually see each other more often now, but I don't see you in person on a regular basis. We do everything online. What's really important around that is communication. So how do you look at communication, Diana, and how do you factor that into bookkeeping?
Communication is key. And I really strongly recommend finding one that you can communicate with really well. Some of my background is I worked for Dale Carnegie for 13 years and took a lot of, you know, communication courses because that is what they do, right, in part of their business. But it is important to have that communication, especially if you're going to be doing remote and you're not seeing them all the time. We do a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of consulting on Zoom, and share the screen. So that if a client says, you know what, I need to talk to you, but with COVID, we can't meet, right? We're being safe. We can do a Zoom call and we can share a screen and share their books and say, what were you looking at? Show me on your screen, because you can go back and forth. Tell me what you're having a problem with. What are you looking for, right?
Yeah, I love that.
This receipt in, but can you see it? Show me. Let's go have a look. And we can do that online. I don't need to meet you in person, or your bookkeeper doesn't need to meet you in person. They can very easily do that online, like we're doing right now. We can share a screen and go through all your books. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? You raised such a good point. Is when I first got started, I knew of what things should look like, but I didn't have the terminology figured out, and I didn't really know where to go. So I mean, one of our first sessions was, once you got me set up, I said, well, hey, I've got my 3 properties at this point. I want to see my expenses differently. How do I make the reporting work? and my previous bookkeeper didn't have that set up correctly. You went and rebuilt all the reporting, and then you showed me where to click by doing a screen share session, and it was great, right? I got what I needed to know. And for a lot of people, they might not be able to explain in words. Like myself, I couldn't explain what I was looking for until we sat down and did a screen share. And I'd be like, look, I'm at this screen and I don't know where to go next. You're telling me to find this. You go, oh, I see what you're saying. And you walk me through the process. And we've done that a few times, which again, um, you're right. You got to be able to work with the person, and they have to be in tune with what you're looking for. And that comes back to super strong communication and being a little bit technically inclined and all that. So, I mean, you being up to date on your certifications, or if you're going to find a bookkeeper, having them in tune with that software is actually invaluable. In fact, now think about it, Diana, you've submitted trouble tickets to our different vendors. I think it was Xero at the time, because things weren't working properly.
Yeah.
And you were able to identify that. So, I mean, that comes back to your experience using that platform or software, seeing that there's an issue and recognizing that's not normal and not accepting it, but actually reporting the trouble we had to fix with the support from the software.
Well, that's really important, actually. I just finished another panel with QuickBooks, right? Because I give a lot of feedback. I've worked with QuickBooks for years, and the more you work with them, they see your clients. They actually invite you to their panel, and they pick out key business owners that use QuickBooks and use it with their clients, and on 3 different topics. Asked me to discuss it with them, the pros and cons of what I found, what my clients did not like, and what I would like to see in the future, them developing to help my clients and future clients. It's not just about me, right? There are numerous people on the panel throughout Canada, you know, saying that we really need to improve this to help people be able to, you know, see this report or that report, or, you know, this app needs to work better so that it syncs better with the software. So I think that's important. Not that everyone has to sit on a panel, but my point is they really need to know the software to be able to utilize it to the utmost, to be able to break it down, break all of your numbers down, especially if you have numerous properties, into each individual property and give you your financials to the penny.
Yeah. So if I'm looking for a new bookkeeper and I want someone that's engaged with the platforms and they give this feedback, so what is that called? That's called like a panel that you guys get invited to provide feedback. Does that happen once a year, twice a year, 3 years? Like, how does that work?
Depends on what they're focusing on. QuickBooks has to invite you to that, right? They look at that and they have to invite you and decide, you know, do they think you will contribute to this panel, right? And I do give that feedback anytime a client says, I don't like this part of it, or I'm not comfortable with that. I immediately contact QuickBooks and say, you know what, this is not working well. I'd like to get some feedback on this, and what are you guys doing to try to rectify this?
Awesome. And you know what, I like the other thing that we haven't even discussed, but you hit the head really well, Diana, is you're talking about engagement. You are looking to improve the process. You're engaged with both your clients' needs and using the software. You're making a better solution for everyone. And that there's just that general engagement, because I think part of it as well, and you can probably testify this, if bookkeeping was simple, you probably wouldn't need a bookkeeper. But it's not the bookkeeping. Oh, no, let me rephrase that. The bookkeeping is not the hard part. It's very simple formulas and numbers. It's the timely follow-ups to make sure your clients are getting all their books in order so you can sit down and do your work. You got to have someone that's diligent, and again, back to strong communication. Because if you have a bookkeeper that, in my case, my very first bookkeeper I can get a hold of, nothing ever got done. So.
Yeah, and that's very important. You need to find someone that, you know, is available, you can communicate with, and you're comfortable with, right? And yeah, putting the numbers in is one thing, but being able to manipulate them and being able to understand them and produce them into reports is another different, a whole different ballgame. Yeah.
So we got another question down here. They think it's a great topic, so Diana, right on, you're doing great. Which online software would you recommend? I'm going to give my take I've used 2, and we made a switch, and then Diana, maybe give your feedback, because also you're in the thick of it. So from an end user perspective, I was initially using Xero, and then I switched over this calendar year over to QuickBooks, again with Diana. The problem I found, and I don't think you saw this across the board, Diana, or maybe you did, but I found some of my bank accounts they kept unsyncing through Xero. Again, they could have easily updated this by now, because it's all software and they're doing updates on a very regular basis. But my problem at that time was I think I had 2 accounts that kept on unsyncing, and I had to go and reattach them, which defeated the whole purpose of having the bank accounts linked into the accounting software, because it's supposed to auto pull those accounts out to get reconciled by Diana or your bookkeeper. So that caused me a lot of problems. So we made the switch to QuickBooks. I find QuickBooks on the accounting side works very well. The downside is they do have a tool called a designated email, so you can email your receipts to your own account, but it's pretty limited from a technical perspective and how you can tie in automations to that. We can definitely do a deep dive on that if you guys are interested on doing bookkeeping automations and whatnot. Maybe Diana can come back in another session and kind of show you some of the ins and outs. But I use a third-party service called I'm drawing a blank now. Oh, HubDoc. And HubDoc what would be the right description, Diana? It's like a digital online filing cabinet that automatically links to NMAXs, TELUS's, all the different services out there, pulls those monthly invoices in, and auto sets them up. So Diana, you come in and basically do your one click, and you can even build rules if it's consistent enough that you recognize the vendor and the account number or something, then this cost goes to this property, this set of utilities goes to this house. But sorry, that's a long-winded answer for what online software would I recommend. Dinah, what's your feedback from online softwares? What are you seeing work best right now for your clients?
I've used all softwares, from Sage to Simply Accounting to Xero to QuickBooks Online to Wave to Fresh. I've used them all. For me personally, I like QuickBooks Online. I really do. I find that their software is constantly changing and adapting, and they are the most open company to continue to do that. When you're referring to HubDoc, is like an integration package system, is what they call it. So QuickBooks, when they switched to online quite a few years ago, they didn't have an app. They didn't have some of those things. Yeah. But their goal now, of course, is to get rid of the integration that people have to use. So right now they do have an app, so that you can take pictures of receipts, things like that, and it'll go directly into your books for coding. Yeah. They also now have, they've just changed it, that you can do your direct, let's say Mackenzie at qbodocs.com, and anything you want can forward into your very own books.
Oh, they've changed that now. That's new, right?
That's brand new. They just did that, and they are working on their next big level that they're working on, is to do what HubDoc does. So let's say you have your utility bills, right? Mm-hmm. They will pick those up and put them in, right? Like sync them in. So it does take time, right? To get, you're an IT guy, so it does take time to get this all integrated in, but that is their goal, and they are doing it, right? They are getting there in doing that. So you use the HubDoc and it works well. Mm-hmm. Some clients just put them in Google Drive, right? And then they're pulled into the books from there. So it's finding your comfort zone for either or, but I recommend QuickBooks. I mean, I like it so much. I'm a certified advanced pro advisor for them, because I really do like their product, and I back up their product, right? I think I don't get anything from it, but I just find it is a very good software, very user friendly. If you're new at it, you can pick it up fairly quickly and to do your books. Yeah.
Cool. Love it. We threw up another question here. Maybe we already covered this. It says
no. We didn't cover this one. I'll give you the name of these people. This is Joan. She's asking this question. Actually, Joan asked the other question too, and I called her Joanne, and I apologize for that because I realized that now. So Joan is asking this question.
Okay, awesome. So Joan says, if you have properties in another province in Saskatchewan, but you live in Alberta, do you still need an Alberta bookkeeper?
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
So Joan's asking, if you have properties in another province, such as Saskatchewan, mm-hmm. but you live in Alberta, mm-hmm. then do you need an Alberta bookkeeper?
No. You can have a bookkeeper wherever you like, as long as they're licensed in the province. Yeah.
So probably the key thing here is maybe it's not so important where the properties are located, but where the individual who owns the properties are submitting their taxes.
No, it's where the bookkeeper is. So if your bookkeeper is in BC and you live in Alberta and you're hiring them, they must be licensed in Alberta.
Oh, based on where you live, not where your property is.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
She's living in Alberta and she hires Alberta bookkeeper. that's fine. Doesn't matter if her properties are in Saskatchewan. But if she's living in Saskatchewan and hiring an Alberta bookkeeper, then that Alberta bookkeeper must be licensed in Saskatchewan to service that customer.
Right. So just for clarity, so hopefully we've answered the question correctly. The location of the rental properties is not important. It's the location of the individual who owns the properties. That individual has to be in the same province or have a bookkeeper licensed in the same province that they submit their taxes from. So if I live in Alberta, I need an Alberta-based or Alberta licensed bookkeeper to do my taxes, regardless if I have rental properties in Alberta, BC.
It's not your taxes. It's not your taxes. It's your books.
Right.
If you're asking to get your books done from someone in a different province, that person who's providing the service must be licensed in that province.
In the province that you reside in.
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. So for you, if you decided to hire a bookkeeper in BC, she or he would have to be licensed in Alberta to provide that service to you.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's talking about bookkeeping. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. You got some good thumbs up from the smiley faces of the cowboy. I like the hat there. So good. Awesome. I know we're 5 minutes from the end of the hour. I'm not sure if folks have got any more questions. We've kind of tackled most of it. Oh, I guess I do got one more question I can throw at you, Diana. If I want to be the best client, so I always have taken this facet with any service provider I work with, especially on a regular basis. If I make your world easier, more likely you might do my books first or sooner. So what things could I do as a landlord with my bookkeeper to make their life easier so my books get done quicker, or just I'm the first one you tackle on the next month? What can we do to be better clients of you and be your number one client you be the bookkeeper's number one client. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Well, to be organized is a good thing, right? And reviewing some of the things prior to saying your books are ready, right? I've compiled a list now that I give my clients, and just to remind them to say, okay, you know what, this is your gentle reminder that your books are due, and these are the items you need to refresh them, right? To say, okay, here's your reminder that to make sure your bank statements. A good example is if you have someone that has rent for $1,200, looking at the bank statement, I see 200, 100, 450, whatever. That's going to take time for your bookkeeper to try and figure out. So, if your bank statement's in Google Drive, you can write on it, right? And they know that. To make sure that, you have your statements, your utility statements, the property taxes in June, if that's coming up, how's that being dealt with? Renewals of insurance, all those types of things, right? The more that you provide them, and if they can give you a monthly checklist, right, then it can be a very smooth process and a quick process, right? So that you can get those statements, fairly quickly and be able to look at them and see where you're sitting at. Yeah.
Awesome. So it's having all the information in when you go and start to do the books. You can sit down in one sitting, start to finish, get the books done. That's the ideal stuff. I mean, of course, you might run into some missing transactions or unknown transactions that aren't labeled, so you might come back with some questions. But as a landlord or as a customer who's trying to work better with the bookkeeper, getting all those receipts submitted with a label, this is repair, this is for this property, having that basic information scribbled on the receipt, and then you take the picture. That's all the information in the right place. And then what I've done as well, and tell me if this has helped you, Diana, is I've created a shared Excel sheet. I call it my property tracker or something like that. But all the kind of key information that you need, every time you've asked me a question, I try to put that information in one location for you that you can refer. So it's got mortgage numbers. It's got what properties are for. What tenants are at what properties for names when you see e-transfers coming through if they don't label it properly. Just generally, if you start storing as you get your dialogue going with your bookkeeper, you're going to get questions asked and what's missing. If you collect that information and put it into one location, an Excel sheet or a shared Google Drive folder or whatever, then that's all one source for a bookkeeper to look at. And if they're only looking in one or two places, or ideally one place, the job gets done faster as opposed to jumping around to 5 or 6 different screens.
Yeah. And the nice thing too with QuickBooks Online is that when you're setting up your tenants, right, you can set up a lot of information. Attach the lease, right? Like when I do them, your lease is attached in, how much rent there was, when the damage deposit was taken, the term of the lease, everything else is in there. So it's quick reference when you go, going in to reconcile. I know that, okay, this person's lease, okay. And it's, I'll be looking to see somewhere where we've agreed upon you're going to store certain things is if I see a different number, I already know that lease is expired, and I should be able to see that you either have a new lease ready that I can put attached to the QuickBooks, or the number's different, right? You're giving a reduction, or you've added on, more utilities, let's say in the winter time. Lots of clients have different rates for utilities. They have summer utilities and winter utilities. And if I see a jump there, I would expect to see something to tell me that, instead of, you don't want your bookkeeper chasing you. It's not their job to chase clients for information. It's their job to analyze the data, perform the work for you, and produce the statements for you. Right. So the more you work together and communicate, the smoother the monthly transitions are.
Perfect. Yeah. Awesome.
Hey, Mackenzie. I'm going to try to sneak a word in here. So
I was just going to say, okay, I'm going to say Bruce just threw a comment out there. Great topic. Thanks for the help. So awesome for providing value back to the community. Diana, phenomenal job. We'll wrap it up here, but Chris, you've been absolutely politely quiet there. What's going on?
I just wanted to say the one thing that popped out because it came up with Diana and I, was that she has the leases and they're digitally uploaded. And how many times do we see on our page where people say, I lost my lease, I lost my walkthrough, wow, just to be able to go back to the database because you misplaced it in a box somewhere, or the box got moved in your move. Diana will have it online. It's uploaded. So there's more than just counting numbers here, folks. This is the stuff that I can upload to my QuickBooks file. Will just save my ass, is what it'll come down to.
Well, and you can find it, right? And we had that discussion no, you load it all in, so it's at your fingertips. So that, the software is yours. And so you can go in to John Smith and say, oh gosh, what, I can't find that. Yes, you can. It's right there. Your walkthrough, everything is attached to that tenant in your QuickBooks for quick reference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just to kind of add on and riff on what you're saying there, Diana, my goal to run my business is I can do it from my cell phone. I've always tried to, and I am an IT kind of technical guy. So, but I have everything. I have filing. I have folder systems for Google Drive. I mean, yes, Google Drive is an online storage, but there's even techniques within just using Google Drive and how you file your stuff. I label all my file names with a date first, so then it's organized by date, because it's kind of a little bit of a limitation of Google Drive. There's so many different nuances, and maybe that might be a topic for another show. I don't know. If you guys are interested, throw a comment out there and say yay or nay, and I might be able to politely ask Diana to come out for a few more shows. But do you guys find value in this? I did see some thumbs up and stuff. So cool.
There's lots of positives here, and the great thing is about our programs, we may have 10 to 20 people watching, but afterwards it's the hundreds and 60s and hundreds and 90s of people we see that watch the shows, and they all get in. So it's amazing the information that we're getting out to people. And Diana, thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Oh, this is Shelly. Yeah, I'm guessing it's Shelly. I'm reading between the lines. If you guys have noticed, I've been taking my glasses on and off because the reflection. I got a light that looks at the camera.
It is Shelly.
Well lit. But when I put my glasses on, you guys can see the light reflecting. So I've been taking off, but I can't read the comments. So I'm like on and off trying to keep up. Anyway, it's completely side subject. Dinah, thanks so much for your time tonight. We really appreciate you giving us the last hour and a ton of information you shared out there, just to kind of have people get wet, whether they're making that decision if they needed a bookkeeper or not. Maybe it sounds like if people are liking it, keep on commenting on this post. We'll keep it up for a week here. If we need more information or you got more questions, maybe I can bug Diana to come back out again for us and help you guys out. So
do your homework when you're hiring a bookkeeper, right? Do your homework, do your due diligence, right? And make sure it's a good fit for you. Yeah.
Great.
Cool. Awesome. Well, guys, enjoy your night. We'll talk soon. And thank you so much, Dana, for joining the show.
Thank you. Have a good
sign
day.
off now. Yeah.
Oh, answer that question. How do you get a hold of Diana? It just came up. She's on our Facebook page. You can message her directly.
Yeah. If you guys want, fire me a note and I'll get you guys directed over to Diana. I'll get you guys in contact with her. I guess we can do it that way. And yes, she is quite lovely. I totally agree. And there's another question as well. Yes, they appreciate the information. What is your contact information? Should I have the need to contact? Yeah, if you guys want, reach out to me directly. I'll get you guys. I'll do a warm introduction and get you guys set up with Diana. She is my bookkeeper, and I do highly recommend her. So, all right, we'll wrap it up there, and we'll talk to you guys next week.